My name is Elena Hayes, the woman my husband forgot, even when I was carrying his triplets. He chose code over listening to me say the words, "I'm pregnant." And then 10 years later, I got a wedding invitation from him, but I didn't come to celebrate. I came with my 3 sons, and the truth he never knew he needed to face. Before I share my story, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. And if you've ever had to rise above family pain on your own, hit that like button and subscribe. Trust me, you're going to want to hear what happened next. The envelope sat on my kitchen counter like a grenade with the pin pulled. My name, Elena Hayes, stared back at me in elegant calligraphy. Not Elena Carter, the name I'd taken back after the divorce. Hayes, as if the past 10 years had never happened. I knew who it was from before I opened it. The return address bore the sleek logo of Neural Nest, the AI company that had consumed more headlines than any tech startup in recent memory. My ex-husband's company. My hands trembled as I slid the thick cardstock from its prison. A wedding invitation. Elliot Hayes requests the honor of your presence. I had to sit down. The kitchen chair scraped against the linoleum, the same floor I'd paced while 9 months pregnant, waiting for him to come home from yet another investor meeting. The same floor where I'd collapsed in exhaustion after the triplets were born, wondering how I'd manage alone. "Mom?" Aiden's voice drifted from the living room. "You okay?" "Fine, honey," I managed, shoving the invitation into a drawer. "Just bills." But I wasn't fine. 10 years of carefully constructed peace shattered with one piece of paper. I could still see him on that last night, hunched over his laptop at our tiny apartment table, fingers flying across the keyboard as I tried to tell him about the pregnancy. "Not now, Elena. The pitch deck needs to be perfect. This could change everything." He was right. It did change everything. Just not the way he'd imagined. I pulled out my phone and called Jillian, my sister who'd somehow ended up working as Neural Nest's communications director. The irony wasn't lost on either of us. "You got it," she said without preamble. "No hello, no how are you." She knew. "Why?" My voice came out smaller than I'd intended. "Why send this to me?" A long pause. "He wanted you to see what you walked away from. The IPO's next month. He's worth... I don't care what he's worth. 800 million. The number hung between us like a blade. "Jill," I whispered. "Does he know?" Another pause, longer this time. "About the boys? No, I never told him. That was your choice to make." But it hadn't been a choice. Not really. When someone can't look up from their screen long enough to hear "I'm pregnant," they've already made the choice for you. "There's something else," Jillian said, her voice dropping. "I sent him a letter after you left. Told him about the pregnancy. But Blair, his fiancée, she's been managing his personal correspondence since the early days. I don't think he ever saw it." My hand tightened on the phone. All these years, I'd believed he knew and didn't care. But maybe he'd never known at all. I thought I'd hidden the invitation well enough, but I'd underestimated my boys. Theo, my middle child with an unsettling talent for technology, found it within 2 days. "Who's Elliot Hayes?" he asked at breakfast, the invitation spread between his cereal bowl and orange juice. His brothers' heads snapped up in unison, a triplet synchronization that still unnerved me after 9 years. "Where did you get that?" I kept my voice level, teacher calm. "Your drawer. I was looking for batteries." His lie was transparent, but I had bigger problems. "Is he our dad?" Aiden, ever direct, cut straight to the heart of it. "Hayes was your name before Carter." My coffee mug became fascinating. How many times had I rehearsed this conversation? How many versions had I practiced? None of them started like this. "Yes," I said finally. "He's your father." Max, my quiet one, spoke for the first time in hours. "Why haven't we met him?" "Because he chose code over family. Because he looked through me like I was transparent. Because I was terrified you'd inherit his ability to love things more than people." "It's complicated," I said instead. Theo was already on his phone. "He's famous, like really famous. He invented some kind of neural network that..." He stopped, staring at the screen. "Mom, we look exactly like him." They clustered around the phone, and I saw it happen. The moment they recognized themselves in a stranger's face. The same dark hair that never quite lay flat. The same intense brown eyes. The same way of tilting their heads when thinking. Can we meet him? Aiden asked. He's getting married, I said. That's what the invitation is for. So? Aiden's jaw set in a way that was pure Elliot. We're his sons. I called Jillian again that night after the boys had gone to bed. They know. What are you going to do? I don't know. I stared at their school photos on the wall. 3 variations of the same face, each with their own spark. He really doesn't know about them? I told you. Blair filters everything. She's been handling his personal inbox since before the Series A funding. Very efficient, very thorough. Jillian's voice carried an edge. She's the one who sent the invitation, you know. Elliot just mentioned your name once during wedding planning, wondering what happened to you. She took it upon herself to track you down and send it. Why would she do that? To show you what you lost, to mark her territory. Take your pick. I thought about the woman who'd stolen my husband's letters, who'd decided what he should and shouldn't see. What if I brought them to the engagement party? Silence. Then, that would certainly make a statement. Not to hurt him, I said quickly. Just, they deserve to know their father, and he deserves to know the choice was taken from him. The party's at the Mirage in San Francisco. Very public, very photographed. Perfect, I thought. No room for denial. No inbox to filter. Just truth. Walking in on 3 pairs of legs. The Mirage Hotel's ballroom glittered like a circuit board. All clean lines and expensive lighting. I'd dressed the boys identically. Navy blazers, white shirts, their hair combed the same way. Looking at them in the hotel mirror, I saw Elliot at 3 different angles, and my heart clenched. Remember, I said, adjusting Theo's collar. We're just here to meet him. Be polite, be yourselves. What if he doesn't want us? Max whispered. I knelt before him. Then we go home, and nothing changes. We have each other. We've always had each other. Aiden squared his shoulders. We look good. We look like we belong here. They did. That was the heartbreak of it. The ballroom doors opened to reveal a world I'd once dreamed of sharing. Tech moguls mingled with venture capitalists, everyone orbiting around the couple at the center. Elliot stood tall in a perfectly tailored suit, his arm around a blonde woman who looked like she'd been designed by the same algorithms he loved. Then the room noticed us. It started as a whisper, spreading outward like ripples in water. Heads turned, conversation stopped. Someone dropped a champagne flute. Elliot's eyes found mine across the room, confusion flickering across his face. Then his gaze dropped to the boys, and I watched him do the math. 1 child might be coincidence. 3 was a pattern. 3 was undeniable. Elena? His voice cracked on my name. I stepped forward, my boys flanking me like an honor guard. Elliot, meet your sons. Aiden, Theo, and Max. The blonde, Blair, it had to be Blair, went rigid beside him. This is a joke, some kind of stunt. I pulled the manila envelope from my purse. DNA tests, birth certificates, medical records. Everything he'd need to see the truth. No joke, just 10 years of reality you missed. Elliot took the papers with shaking hands. Around us, phones appeared, cameras clicked. Someone was live streaming. I could see ourselves reflected in miniature on their screen, this moment being broadcast to thousands. They're 9, he said, still staring at the birth certificates. You were pregnant when I left, yes? You never told me. Accusation bled through shock. I tried. The words came out sharper than intended. But you were busy changing the world. Blair tugged at his arm. Elliot, we should... No. He shrugged her off, still staring at the boys. Aiden, Theo, Max. He said their names like he was learning a new language. Theo, brave in the way only children can be, stepped forward. Are you really our dad? Elliot knelt slowly. Expensive suit be damned. Yes, I think I am. You think? Aiden's protective instincts flared. You either are or you aren't. I am. Elliot's voice grew stronger. I'm your father. I just didn't know you existed. How could you not know? Max asked. Elliot's eyes found mine over their heads, and I saw the exact moment he understood. The missed conversations, the ignored signs, the walls he'd built around himself with work and ambition. Because I wasn't paying attention, he said quietly. Because I was looking at screens when I should have been looking at your mother. The live stream chat exploded. Neural nest drama began trending before we even left the ballroom. Elliot found us in the hotel's VIP lounge 20 minutes later. The boys sat on a plush sofa, overwhelmed and quiet. He'd lost the tie, and his perfect hair was mussed from running his hands through it. "We need to talk," he said. I sent the boys to the vending machines with a handful of quarters. Aiden hesitated, but I nodded. "It's okay. Take your time." When we were alone, Elliot's carefully constructed composure crumbled. 10 years, Elena. You hid my children from me for 10 years. I hid nothing. I kept my voice steady, though rage simmered beneath. You were never there to hide from. Even when we lived in the same apartment, you were gone. Lost in your code, your investors, your grand vision. That's not... Do you remember the night I left? Do you even remember what I said? He faltered. You said you couldn't do this anymore. Before that, I said I had something important to tell you. You waved me off. After the pitch, you said, everything depends on this pitch. That doesn't mean you get to steal 10 years. Steal? I stood, fury finally breaking through. I was 22, pregnant with triplets and married to a ghost. You want to talk about stealing? You stole every chance to choose us. Every dinner you missed, every conversation you postponed, every time you looked through me like I was a bug in your code. I was building something. So was I. The words exploded out. I was building a family, but you couldn't debug that, couldn't optimize it, so it didn't exist for you. He sank into a chair. I would have, if I'd known. Would you? Really? Would you have chosen dirty diapers over clean code? 3 a.m. feedings over all-night coding sessions? Little league games over board meetings? Silence stretched between us. Through the door's window, I could see our boys at the vending machines, Aiden helping Max reach the buttons. I want to know them, Elliot said finally. They're not a product you can acquire. They're children, my children. They have bedtimes and favorite foods and fears about thunderstorms. They need consistency, not grand gestures. I can learn. Can you? When? Between IPO meetings during your honeymoon? He flinched. Blair and that's probably over after tonight anyway. That's not my concern. My concern is 3 boys who just met their father on livestream and don't know what comes next. Let me try. His voice dropped. I know I failed you. Failed at marriage, at seeing what mattered. But don't I get a chance to not fail them? I studied him. Really looked for the first time in years. He seemed smaller somehow. Success sitting heavily on shoulders that used to carry such certainty. One chance, I heard myself say. You come to Texas, you show up. Consistently. No promises you can't keep, no disrupting their lives. You learn who they are before you try to be who they need. Okay. And Elliot, you should know, Aiden heard everything. He's been standing behind that plant for the last 5 minutes. Elliot turned to find our eldest son stepping out from his hiding spot, chin raised in defiance and eyes bright with unshed tears. Elliot arrived in Texas 3 weeks later, pulling up to our modest suburban home in a rental Corolla instead of something flashy. I appreciated the effort, even as the boys pressed against the window to watch him navigate our cracked driveway. He's here, Theo announced unnecessarily. Remember, I said, this is just a visit. We're taking things slow. But Elliot, I learned, didn't do anything slowly anymore. He threw himself into fatherhood like it was a startup to be scaled. He showed up with books on child development, scheduled activities, and a color-coded plan for optimizing quality time. We're not a project, Aiden told him bluntly after Elliot suggested a mathematically balanced rotation of one-on-one activities. I know, Elliot said, but I could see he didn't. Not yet. The breakthrough came, as most do, by accident. Max's bike chain broke during one of Elliot's scheduled outdoor bonding sessions. Instead of calling for a replacement or searching for the nearest bike shop, Elliot sat on our driveway with Max, grease covering his expensive shirt, teaching him how to repair it. Why do you know how to fix bikes? Max asked, fascinated. I wasn't always a CEO, Elliot said, hands steady on the chain. When I was your age, my dad taught me. Said it was important to know how things work, not just that they work. Did you teach Mom? Elliot's hand stilled. No, I forgot to teach your mom a lot of things. I forgot to learn from her, too. That evening, I found them all in the backyard. Elliot had abandoned his schedule, instead throwing a baseball with increasing incompetence while the boys laughed at his terrible aim. He looked ridiculous. Shirt untucked, hair mussed, grass stains on his knees. He looked happy. "You're really bad at this," Theo informed him after a particularly wild throw. "I know," Elliot grinned. "Good thing I have 3 teachers." He started missing meetings. Jillian called me, concerned. "The board's getting nervous. He's delegating everything, barely checks his email. The stock's down 12%. And nothing. Just thought you should know he's choosing them." But choosing had consequences. Blair, wounded and vicious, leaked stories about Elliot's mental breakdown. Photos surfaced of him at Little League practice while crucial meetings happened without him. Tech blogs speculated about founder instability. The IPO got postponed. "I'm costing you everything," I told him one evening as he helped Max with homework. He looked up from 2nd grade math. "No, I'm finally paying for everything. There's a difference." He started leaving pieces of himself in our life. A phone charger here, a coffee mug there. The boys began expecting him, saving stories from school to share. Thursday became Dad's Day, and I watched my careful, controlled world reshape itself around his presence. "He's trying," Aiden admitted grudgingly after Elliot spent an entire Saturday teaching him to code. "He actually listens now." He did. He listened to their rambling stories, their complaints about school, their dreams about the future. He was learning them, mapping their personalities like new territories to explore. But sometimes I'd catch him staring at nothing. Hand pressed to his temple, face tight with something that looked like pain. When I asked, he'd wave it off. "Just tired, worth it though." I believed him. I shouldn't have. The seizure happened at Theo's school science fair. One moment, Elliot was examining Theo's robot. The next, he was on the gymnasium floor, his body rigid and shaking. The boys froze. I dropped to my knees, turned him on his side, and tried to stay calm while chaos erupted around us. At the hospital, the truth came out in sterile medical terms. Glioblastoma, grade 4, inoperable. The tumor had been growing for months, maybe longer, pressing against his brain with increasing insistence. "How long?" I asked while the boys waited outside with Jillian. "With treatment, maybe 6 months. Without—" The doctor didn't finish. He knew. It wasn't a question. The headaches, the missed moments when he'd stare at nothing. He'd known. When Elliot woke, his first word was, "Boys? They're here. They're scared. Don't tell them. Not yet. Let me give them a few more normal days." But Aiden figured it out within a week. He found the medication, Googled the names, and confronted me with printed pages about brain cancer. "Is Dad dying?" The word Dad still felt new in his mouth, and now it carried the weight of potential loss. "Yes," I said, because Aiden deserved truth. "Does he know?" "Yes." "How long?" "Not long enough." We told Theo and Max together, Elliot holding them as they cried. He'd prepared for this like everything else, with books about grief and carefully chosen words. But nothing prepared any of us for Max's quiet question. "Will we forget you?" "No," Elliot said fiercely. "I won't let you." He started writing that night. 3 notebooks, 1 for each boy. I'd find him at our kitchen table at dawn, filling pages with his cramped handwriting. Code snippets, memories he'd missed, advice for futures he wouldn't see. He wrote until his hands shook, until the words blurred. "What are you giving them?" I asked one morning, reading over his shoulder. Everything I should have given from the start. Stories about their grandmother, the algorithm that started Neural Nest, why I chose their mother. His voice caught. Why I was too stupid to keep choosing her. He gave them experiences, too. Camping trips where he could barely walk but insisted on teaching them constellations. Cooking lessons that ended in flour-covered disasters. A trip to the Neural Nest offices where he showed them the server room, explaining how their inheritance worked. Not just money, but ideas, possibilities, dreams encoded in silicon and hope. "I'm writing you into the code," he told them, fingers flying across the keyboard despite the tremor in his hands. "Every time someone uses our neural network, a piece of you will be there. Hidden functions that spell your names, comments that tell your stories, Easter eggs that only you 3 will understand." "Why?" Max asked. "Because code lasts longer than people. Because I want other programmers to wonder about the 3 boys whose initials appear in unexpected places. Because I love you, and this is the only way I know to make that permanent. Blair contested the will changes, of course, claimed undue influence, mental incapacity, but Elliot had been thorough, documenting everything, recording his wishes with crystalline clarity. The boys would inherit everything, not just money, but purpose, legacy, a father's attempt to encode love into law. Elliot died on a Tuesday morning in December, the Texas sun warming his face as he sat in our backyard, watching the boys play. He'd insisted on being home, not in a hospital. The boys held his hands as he slipped away, and I held theirs. The tech world mourned publicly. Headlines proclaimed the loss of a visionary, a pioneer, a genius who'd revolutionized machine learning. But in our small house, we mourned privately. The man who'd learned to make pancakes in animal shapes, who'd finally understood that bedtime stories mattered more than board meetings. 2 weeks after the funeral, Theo made the discovery. He'd been exploring Neural Nest's open source code, searching for something of his father to hold on to. "Mom!" He ran into the kitchen, laptop clutched against his chest. "Look what I found!" Hidden throughout the code base were messages. Comments that appeared random unless you knew to look for them. For Aiden, strength isn't not crying, it's crying and continuing anyway. For Theo, every system can be understood except the human heart. That one you just have to trust. For Max, the quietest voice often carries the most important words. Never doubt yours. But it went deeper. Functions named after their birth dates. Variables that spelled out "I love you" in binary. An entire subroutine called Project Elena that, when activated, displayed a single message. She was always the better algorithm. The boys spent hours finding every message, compiling them like treasure hunters. Neural Nest's community noticed, too. Developers around the world began discovering Elliot's hidden legacy, sharing screenshots of code comments that read like letters to his children. Success without family is just fancy failure. That one went viral, shared by thousands who'd never met Elliot but understood the weight of his words. The notebooks were different. Intimate, handwritten, meant only for us. Aiden's contained leadership lessons wrapped in father-son conversations they'd never had. Theo's mixed coding tutorials with life advice. Max's was filled with stories, poems, and gentle reminders that being quiet didn't mean being invisible. Mine was the shortest but the heaviest. Every page was an apology, a love letter, a promise to do better in whatever came after. The last entry, written in a shaking hand, simply said, "Thank you for letting me try." We held a celebration of life at the boys' school. Instead of mourning, we taught. The triplets stood before their classmates, explaining neural networks through their father's eyes, showing how love could be encoded in silicon and memory. "Our dad wrote us into his life's work," Aiden said, steady and strong. "Every time someone uses AI to solve a problem, to create something new, to make the world a little better, we're there. He's there." The school unveiled a plaque, in memory of Elliot Hayes, who left his algorithm and his love. That night, as I tucked them in, Max asked, "Do you think he knew we forgave him?" "Yes," I said, though forgiveness felt too small a word for what had passed between us. "He knew." "Mom?" Theo's voice came from the darkness. "Can we keep learning to code, together?" "Of course." "Dad would have loved that," Aiden added. "He would have." He did. In every hidden message, every encoded love letter, every piece of himself he'd scattered through the digital world for his boys to find. A year later, Neural Nest thrived under new leadership, with one unusual addition: the Social Learning Division, officially run by the Elena Hayes Foundation, but practically managed by 3 10-year-olds who attended board meetings via video call from their elementary school library. "We need to make AI understand feelings," Aiden argued to a room full of executives. "Dad's code was smart, but it didn't know how to love. We're fixing that." They were. With help from Elliot's team, the boys created algorithms that recognized emotional nuance, that responded to human need beyond mere efficiency. It was their father's vision filtered through their mother's heart. technology that enhanced humanity rather than replacing it. I found the letter by accident, tucked inside an old coding manual he'd left behind. The envelope was yellowed, my name written in his younger, more uncertain hand. Dated 10 years ago, 1 week after I'd left. Elena, I've started this letter 17 times. Each version feels like trying to debug a program I don't understand. My own heart. You left today. The apartment echoes. I ordered Thai food from our place and couldn't eat it. Everything tastes like regret. I know why you left. I see it now, in the empty spaces where you used to be, in the indent on your side of the bed, in the coffee mug you didn't take, in the way I keep looking up to tell you something about the code and you're not there. I chose wrong. Every single time I chose wrong. You asked me once what I was building, and I gave you technical specifications, market projections, disruption theories. But the truth? I was building walls. Between us. Between me and any feeling I couldn't quantify. I thought love was a constant, like gravity. Something that would always be there, requiring no maintenance, no debugging, no daily commits. I was wrong. Love is code that needs constant refactoring, attention, care. Love is choosing to look up from the screen. I'm going to change. I'm going to win you back. I'm going to prove that I can be the man who sees you, not through you. Who chooses you, not after the pitch or the product launch or the IPO, but now. Always now. If you're reading this, I didn't say it in time, but I never stopped looking at that door, waiting for you to walk back through it. All my love, uncompiled but true, Elliot. The letter blurred through my tears. He'd written it, but never sent it, keeping his promise to change locked away like uncommitted code. All those years of anger, thinking he hadn't cared enough to fight for us, when really he'd been too afraid to try. Mom? Max appeared in the doorway. You okay? I showed him the letter. He read it solemnly, then called his brothers. They gathered around me, reading their father's young, desperate words. He loved you, Aiden said simply. He just didn't know how to run the program. But he learned, Theo added. At the end, he learned. Should we frame it? Max asked. I thought about it, then shook my head. No, but we'll keep it. Sometimes the most important messages are the ones that never get sent. They're practice runs for the love we eventually learn to give. That night, we sat together at the kitchen table. Laptops open, coding as a family. The boys taught me functions and loops while I taught them that love, like code, could always be rewritten, debugged, improved. Let's build something together, I said. Something Dad would have loved. And we did. Line by line, error by error, commit by commit. A family, rebuilt in code and love, and the space between what was lost and what was found. Outside, the Texas stars watched over us, constant as the algorithm of a father's love, hidden in the code, waiting to be discovered by those who knew where to look. He never sent the letter, but he found a way to say it.